Hello, everybody. Today I will talk about. Of course, I'm slim. Of course, well, I forgot that. But today I'm gonna talk about. You've read the title. You've probably also seen the thumbnail. I don't know what I'll make as a thumbnail, but yeah, I feel like the matchmaking is made like this on purpose and is designed. If I had to say it in the shortest way where the video would end, simply I would just say, well, it's designed that way and it will never be perfect just because, well, it has to entangle you in the game. Because if you keep winning over and over again, well, you're gonna be like, oh, this is too easy. I guess I'll move on to something else then. It'll bore you out. It will get you out of there. But because the matchmaking might be unfair sometimes, you're gonna try your best to prove it wrong, to maybe be like, I wonder what will happen now. And you quickly get tangled in. But if I have to expand, well, this is where it gets interesting. Because, I'm gonna go from my experience personally. So I'll just tell you a story where, like, let's say I bought a tank, and let's put light tanks, for example, because I started loving lights a lot. So let's say, this is actually true. I had a bat shot, and I'm pretty sure I had like 68, almost 70% in it after 30 battles. And I was like, wow, this is insane. I'm very good at this. And that was one session. Then I came again, and there was a second session. And the downfall began where I lowered to 52%. My mistake was playing more, honestly. But that's because I wanted to just see if I can just win one game. Because at the time, I don't know why. I actually don't even know why I wanted to do it. I should have just quit after 3 games, let's be real. But I've played, I think, 20 more. Or something. Almost every single one of them was losses. And I won like once. And then I just left. Then, of course, it got back again. And it went up and shot up. And then I started switching tanks, and then it was like gradually up, and now I'm like, I don't know what percentage I am. Maybe 56, maybe 57%. I actually don't even remember how much I have anymore. But I don't know. It is pretty okay. I still love Batchat a lot. It's very good, especially now. But the worst parts were the beginning, I guess. Because Batchat to me played like the AMX and the AMX and the tier 6 and 7. Literally every AMX is the same to me, except tier 9. I don't like tier 9. Batchat wasn't crazy, because I played a lot of AMX. I don't know why I like that little thing. One might say, oh, Seal Clubber, but I just like playing low tier because it's fun tier, and usually I have high win rate in these. But like, tell me if you have the same thing where if you buy the tier 10 tank, you just perform amazingly in one session, even 2 sessions, and then the downfall begins. And then you just fall into some horrible, like, win rate and stuff like that. Of course, I might sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, let's be real, because we will never know the matchmaking. And I feel like that's also kind of on purpose, because, we will never know it. No one really solved it in depth. Everything's kind of a mystery. And to me, I feel like it has to be kind of made by design. Because, like, look, there was the moment where Wargaming made an update where they changed the matchmaking, where the amount of 183s and Jags and just overall TDs like this will be decreased. It won't be spammed anymore. It won't be insane amount, which still sometimes happens, depends. But they said there won't be insane amount of 183s anymore. If there's 2 183s, there have to be 183 on your team, or like they just won't be spammed. And it gets to tell you, if they can do it manually and fix it manually, well, they obviously have some control over it. And I still feel like maybe they're hard locking you into a percentage of total battles that you're in, your main stats. So let's say your main stats are 54%. If you suddenly buy a tank and you perform in or 54, 55, whatever, and you suddenly buy a tank and you perform amazingly and you get like 66% and you're like, wow, okay, it's pretty good. And then a couple minutes later, or maybe even, next day, you join back in and you perform like absolute trash. And you're like, wow, it decreased to 52. What happened? this might be one of this situation where they're trying to hard lock you to the percentage they think you deserve to be in. Deserve, basically. So if you have these stats, they might be trying to lock you in. And usually you'll have these stats around there in tier 10 specifically. But then again, tier 10s usually have sweats. And I think it's the same thing where if you are during these matches, the longer you play, like the more toxic people you will encounter. And I feel like that always happens in many games. Like even, this might be a bad example, but like in CSGO, when there are ranks, the higher you went, the more toxic people might have been, honestly. Although some people argue it might be quite the opposite. The lower rank someone is, the more toxic they are, which also happens. But, yeah, that does happen sometimes, And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is a bit strange. I still think that think about that. If they literally designed the game in a way where they made gambling for children, where they make everything so colorful and so induced with FOMO, aka fear of missing out, you don't think they would do the matchmaking thing on purpose? Come on. If they can make gambling for kids in such a way, and they literally make the game in such a way which will attract an audience. They literally did a collab now where they're trying to attract the furries, because I'm guessing money's low. I'm guessing money's probably low, so they went to the extremes. They got furries. And yeah, some people actually don't like, most people don't like it. Veterans don't like it. New players will. New players will, or the WOTB simps will. But I honestly also don't like it, so don't worry. I also don't like it. I think it's cringe as hell. I think it's goofy. I think it's goofy as hell, actually. I think it's just goofy, sort of thing. But, when they lost money, they're now going to the extremes trying to attract the furries. And yeah, that might give them more money to, whatever. They might give them more money. Who knows? But anyway, if they are able to do this, you don't think they will do the matchmaking in such a way which will keep you in the game longer and keep you maybe even addicted? Because if you keep winning the games, you're going to get bored, right? But no, if they give you some unfairness to it, if they give you some moments where it's so unfair, it's unreal, and yeah, you might be like, wow, what's going on? And then you play another game and you're like, oh, this is amazing. A couple games later, and then another thing happens and you're like, what's going on? And you're just in the spiral, always in there doing that stuff. Yeah, I feel like there might be some things definitely made on purpose. I mean, this is Wargaming. Wargaming literally made tiered loot boxes. You don't think they would do that? You don't think they would fuck around with the matchmaking in some ways, even silent? I don't think silently, but even maybe silently, because yeah. Anyway, I don't know. In my case, though, even games that after 2 a.m. after 11 p.m. they get horribly unplayable. Prepare for BS if you are a type of player that plays at night. I actually recommend getting you a super heavy or any heavy that's a German heavy. Like VK72, E100 is the best pick, because if you can angle the E100, easy. If you can't, you know what, don't play at night. But lights you're not gonna love at night. Although depends, because I did have a couple good games in the light. That was good. But at night it's always been trash. So just keep that in mind. But I still think that there might be just moments where it's keeping you on purpose with players who sometimes share a brain cell together. Because I can't tell you enough, I had many battles where I just kept losing, and I did top damage and moved around the map in the light everywhere, just spotting everywhere. Because whenever I was a heavy or whenever I was a TD, lights in my team never knew how to be a light, and I was like, wow, where the hell are spots? There's literally nothing there, right? And I was a grill, so obviously I can't do much, right? And I had to pick a light because wow, they can't spot for shit. Let me just be a light. And that always worked, but every time we just lost, and I did like 4,000 something damage. And at that point, I feel like it's not my fault but the team, because if I keep doing that almost every single game I lose, well, I sense a pattern, and I feel like that's just not my fault. That's just the team, because there's a problem when you do 4K damage and your team does like what, 2K, 2.2. And then it's just a cutout, or it's like you do 3K damage and your team does 1,000 each and you lose. I feel like that's a pattern. Like, I feel like that's when you can blame the team for what it's doing. And I wouldn't really care if it was just like a one-off scenario, which, okay, it is what it is. But I'm talking, there was literally every game where I did top damage every time, and my team was just like this every single time. And yeah, the more you play, the worse it will get, to the point that you won't even do a one-shot properly. Which, yeah, sometimes it does happen. Happens to the best of us when we just do like 500 damage and then it's over because we get, focused or just rushed. It is what it is. Happens. But yeah, that's kind of my experience. I don't know. Personally, that's kind of what I believe. I believe that matchmaking definitely has some problems and some things that will never be changed because it's meant to keep you in the game. But honestly, let me know your thoughts, if I'm right, if I'm wrong. I'm always open for discussion, or just open for hearing everybody's perspectives on this. Because I really want to know if anybody thinks the same, or maybe there's some nuance to it, or maybe there's just somebody who, disagrees. Let me know, of course, and I'll see you later. Peace out, and see ya.